Welcome to Blender tutorial number 2. In our first tutorial, we learned how to navigate our point of view around the viewport. And now we're going to talk a little bit about working with the objects itself. And in this case, this is a primitive cube. There are several different primitive objects that are available to you in the Create panel over here. And you can kind of see those. You probably had a chance to experiment with them a little bit. And we can move these around by clicking and dragging on the gizmo, which is this 3-arrow little device here, and it'll drag along the relevant axis, Z, Y, X, whichever you like. You can engage the snap function by pressing this magnet here, or by using the keyboard shortcut Shift-Tab, and this will allow you to move in increments that follow the reference grid that you have here. And to disengage, Shift-Tab, and now we're back to our regular movement. Over here in the transformation panel, we have several different things that we can do here to our object. Hover your mouse over any button in Blender and it will tell you what that button is for and the keyboard shortcut related to it. And you can see right away that if we just click the translate button, we're kind of automatically moving our object around relative to our mouse in a way that's not very intuitive or accurate. So we can click that to drop it one more time and use the keyboard shortcut with our mouse over the object. Press G, and now you can move it more easily. But you'll note that you're really only moving this object in a two-dimensional plane here. In order to move it along the x-axis, we've got to use our constrain axis keys. So while the translation function is still engaged, if I press X, now I'm moving my object along the x-axis in 3D space. And I can do the same thing pressing Y or Z. And then further, I can engage the snap by pressing Shift and Tab, and then I'm moving along the increments of the grid. And this is important because it can be challenging to line up multiple objects in 3D space. Go ahead and click your object to drop it, and then let's move on to rotate, which the keyboard shortcut is R. And we can press R with our mouse hovering by our object and rotate it, and then once again hit the X, Y, and Z keys to constrain our rotation along those axes. And then once again drop by simply single-clicking on the object. And if you want to undo a move or operation in Blender, you can press Command-Z, and that will undo just like it will in many of the other programs that you know. Now I'm still in snap mode, so I'm going to press Shift-Tab to unsnap. And then go to the Scale function here. This is shortcut is S. Hover the mouse over your object, press S, and we can now scale the size either to larger or smaller. And if we want to scale along any of our axes, we can press the relative key and then simply drag with our fingers to size the object along each of these axes, which is useful for making gross adjustments to your primitive objects. And finally, to deselect an object, press A on the keyboard, and then to select it, go ahead and right-click it, which is clicking with 2 fingers on your trackpad. And one more thing that I want to communicate to you. If you click on the object with 2 fingers and then drag, you are automatically going into translate mode, and then from there you can go ahead and constrain your axes. And so this is a shortcut that's really useful because it adds more efficiency to your workflow in Blender. And then the next thing that we want to be clear on is this properties panel here. Let's go over here and click the object properties option, and this allows you to have a numeric representation of your rotation, location, and scale of your object in Blender. This is very handy for being precise with your movements. So you can create other shapes wherever you place your cursor, use spheres and cones. We can select multiple objects by shift-clicking them with 2 fingers, and press A to deselect. We can press B on the keyboard, which gives you a box selection, which will allow you to select multiple objects. Press A to deselect. And that's pretty much a good place to stop. And now you can go on to some of the tutorials from lynda.com to help you further with Blender. And that's the end of our tutorial.